There is a new video out called China's Military is Falling Apart by China Uncensored. That's the channel's name. I almost clicked it and then I thought, wait a minute, let me go watch it with y'all. It looks interesting. It only came out 3 days ago, and yeah, let's see what this video is going to be like. I don't know if any of this is true or not. I don't know what's going to be talked about, but it just seemed like an interesting topic to get into.
China has one of the largest, most powerful militaries in the world, and it could all be falling apart. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, you should be using a VPN like Surfshark to cover your tracks and protect your identity. I'll tell you more at the end. But
this is a cool format. Like, if you want to be a news anchor, you can on YouTube. You just gotta make your videos like that. That's cool.
Big news today. The Chinese Communist Party just expelled 2 former defense ministers for corruption. They were Wei Fenghe and Li Shangfu. I can't stress enough how big this is. It points to dangerous fissures within the Chinese Communist Party and possibly crippling corruption within the CCP's People's Liberation Army. You know what that means? It's time for another episode of the people's favorite communist soap opera, General Hostility.
Oh my God. I didn't expect him to be silly.
Previously on General Hostility. The Chinese Communist Party is in turmoil. Former Chinese leader and human toad Jiang Zemin may have finally croaked, but he's still haunting Xi Jinping. Jiang created a web of corruption within the Communist Party and its military that aimed to take down Xi Jinping when he came to power in 2012. But Xi fought back, launching a so-called anti-corruption campaign that targeted millions of Communist Party members, many of whom were part of Jiang Zemin's political faction. But it failed. Corruption endures, and now even people Xi considered allies are stabbing him in the back. Oh, I missed you, General Hostility.
I can imagine that there's a lot of corruption. Okay, so they were just kicked out, but does that really hurt the military? I mean, maybe they think it helps the military. Let's
Still
see.
the best soap opera ever. So, let's get into it. A recent party meeting on June 27th made 3 major announcements. 1, they announced the date of the 3rd plenum of the 20th Central Commission. Don't worry if that sounds like gobbledygook. I'll explain that in a moment.
Thank you.
2, they discussed the issue of comprehensively deepening reforms and promoting Chinese-style modernization, which also sounds like gobbledygook. And 3, they announced corruption charges against Li Shangfu and Wei Fenghe. I'll go through the first 2 quickly because you need that context. The 3rd plenum is a regularly scheduled major meeting of the Communist Party. It traditionally deals with the economy, and it was supposed to be held sometime between September and November of last year, based on precedent going back to 1977. But it was mysteriously delayed and only just announced that it would be this month instead. Why? Well, late last year, the party was struggling with a number of crises. Tensions between the U.S. and China were high following the spy balloon incident. The U.S. was restricting China's access to advanced technology. China was getting caught up in Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine, and there had just been a series of high-profile purges in the CCP's military, including Li Shangfu.
Those 2.
For clarity, last year, Li was fired as China's defense minister. Last week, Li was purged from the Communist Party itself, which is a much bigger deal. Beijing couldn't have held the 3rd plenum then because the CCP needed time to figure out how to deal with the unprecedented political and economic challenges it was facing. The second point, the draft decision on comprehensively deepening reforms and promoting Chinese-style modernization.
Okay, when I read that, I feel like it's oppressive. I could be wrong. That's just the feeling I get.
This is all about Xi Jinping further solidifying his central role as the core of the Chinese Communist Party. Not him sharing power as part of what used to be called the collective leadership of the party. Just Xi. Because Xi is getting nervous. Which finally brings us to Li Shangfu and Wei Fenghe. This was not your typical Xi Jinping purge, because these weren't Jiang faction guys. Both men were supposed to be Xi Jinping's allies. And now they've been accused of bribery and corruption.
Oh.
It doesn't stop there. According to state-run Xinhua, Li Shangfu severely contaminated the political environment of the equipment sector in the military.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not saying too much. I'm just learning a lot. I don't know anything about these topics. Severely contaminated the political environment of the equipment sector in the military.
Wei Fenghe severely contaminated the political environment of the military, bringing enormous damage to the party's cause, the development of national defense and the armed forces, as well as the image of senior officials. Wei's violations are extremely serious in nature, with a highly detrimental impact and tremendous harm. So a couple of things to point out.
A lot of scary words.
You may have noticed both men were accused of contaminating the political environment of the military, which is a strange thing to say if you think about the Chinese military like it's the US military. It's not. The People's Liberation Army is the armed wing of the Chinese Communist Party itself. It's not China's military, it's the party's military. And as such, it's first and foremost a political entity. To put it in US terms, it would be like if the Republicans or the Democrats had their own private armies. Scary.
Wow. That put it into perspective.
And should tell you why things in China are so messed up.
It's kind of scary.
These accusations against Li and Wei also hammer in how serious their crimes were, that they caused severe damage to the military. This isn't your run-of-the-mill political purge using corruption as a cover. Whatever they did was enough to be an actual threat to the Communist Party.
What they're claiming was done. Okay? He could have just thought they were getting too much power and he just wanted them out. Like, that's what happens when you have one dude that's taking all the power.
Xi Jinping. We knew a purge like this was coming because back in June, Xi hosted a meeting of the Central Military Commission. It was held in Yan'an. That's a place of particular significance to the history of the Chinese Communist Party. I don't have time to go into that here, but those who know, look it up.
What did he just say? I don't...
Communist Party. I don't have time to go into that here, but those who know, look it up.
Do y'all know? What am I missing? You can tell me in the comments.
So at this meeting, Xi complained about corruption in the military and said the gun barrel must always be grasped by people who are loyal and reliable to the party. Xi is...
Ooh, that sounds so problematic.
Spooked. He's spent the past decade trying to purge corruption in the party and its military that grew under the control of Jiang.
Which corruption means just being against the party or not being fully with the party. It's not the same in America. That's what he's saying. Okay, I get it.
Jiang Zemin. And not only has he failed, people he thought were his allies, according to the official report, caused great damage to the party's cause, national defense, and the construction of the PLA, as well as to the image of the senior leading cadres. It was of an extremely serious nature, with an extremely bad impact and extremely great harm.
I think by now y'all know I'm a skeptic. When I see someone who has so much power, I think, okay, do they have power to put out news articles? Because it's that simple. And this is pretty dramatic writing, isn't it?
That is not the language the party usually uses. The party always portrays itself as Wei Guangzheng, great, glorious, and correct.
Ooh.
They downplay stuff. They've specifically been trying to minimize public reporting on military corruption for years. According to Sino Insider, a risk consultancy that specializes in elite Chinese politics, the fact that the CCP made such an extreme statement publicly means that Wei and Li had likely not been sacrificed for petty political reasons or as an elaborate ruse to have the international community misevaluate the combat and command readiness of the PLA.
So what was it?
Some people try to say this is just Sun Tzu, art of war, appear weak when you're strong. No. Something has gone very wrong in the PLA. And this is why Xi is still desperately trying to consolidate his power. Whatever Li and Wei did, it very likely seriously affected the PLA's ability to fight. That will affect the party's plans for Taiwan, for the South China Sea, and for the East China Sea. Now, don't take that to mean the PLA is fundamentally broken and not a threat. It's still a threat. And we can't afford to just ignore the problem. But this corruption is now a fault line the U.S. can exploit. Combined...
I'm not smart enough to make full educational comments on this stuff. However, again, I'm a skeptic, and it's like, this can all just be done on purpose. If it's not typical of them, especially, they could, or because they have two men they can pin it on, now they can pin all their problems on these guys and say that they got them out. And now we're perfect again. If there's anything I'm missing, you can let me know for sure.
China's current economic problems, it's unlikely the CCP can engage in serious acts of aggression against Taiwan or in the South China Sea right now.
Yeah.
This is the time for the U.S. to increase its support for Taiwan, including things like arms sales, military cooperation, increasing trade, and supporting Taiwan on the international stage. The U.S. should also solidify alliances in the Indo-Pacific, particularly with the Philippines and Japan. And the U.S. should hit China with tariffs and sanctions. Now is the time, because it looks like this was just the beginning of the purges. In January, there was a cultural performance in Beijing for retired and veteran military cadres. There were some high-profile people, including Wei Fenghe, who did not attend. It's very likely they're under investigation, but it just hasn't been publicly announced yet. There's another big name you should be keeping your eye out for. Jiang Mianheng, the oldest son of Xi's arch-rival Jiang Zemin. There are rumors that he's also involved in high-level corruption in the PLA.
Well, if he's your opponent, you call that corruption, of course. But yeah, I would say probably.
His time in China's aerospace program. So things are not going great for China's military. And you know what more purges means? More general hostilities. Can Xi Jinping save the PLA? Or will the military turn on him? Will Jiang Mianheng become his dead father's toady? Or is he at the tops of Xi's to purge list? Find out who remains great, glorious, and correct next time on General Hostility. This is better than anything on Netflix. So very few countries,
maybe not anything,
and especially companies, dare stand up to the CCP. But the ones we do have are brave and amazing. So a big thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this episode. When you go online, everything you do is potentially compromised unless you're taking active steps to protect yourself. No matter where you live, no matter what you do online, you should always be keeping your internet activity private with a VPN like Surfshark, especially when you're doing things like logging into your bank account or credit card online. If you've ever used shared Wi-Fi, you're in danger. Hackers can easily steal your password without you even knowing it. And when you travel, especially overseas, you might need a VPN that makes it look like you're in your home country.
That is what I used to use it for. All the time.
To log into your accounts. So it saves a huge potential hassle. And you can install it on as many devices as you want, even on your Amazon Fire TV stick. It's great for when you want to make it appear like you're logged in from a different country so you can access all the good Netflix shows that are geo-blocked. So seriously, check out Surfshark. Go to surfshark.com/uncensored and you'll get 4 months extra when you sign up. That's surfshark.com/uncensored. Or use the code uncensored at checkout. The link is in the description below. And I've got a video I want you to watch. Stalin, Mao. They created powerful cults of personality that killed millions. How'd they do it? Click here to see this episode of my new show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming, where I take a look at the lure of charismatic leaders in Dragon's Dogma 2. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell.
What? I want to watch that. And the cult. I want to see that. Maybe we'll watch that next.
See you next time.
All right. That was interesting. I pretty much the whole video, I learned things that I had no clue about. So I'm sorry if I didn't say too much. That was an interesting topic. And yeah, I want to check out that Dragon's Dogma cult thing. The channel is called China Uncensored. I'll leave this video in the description for you if you want to check out the channel for yourself. There's a ton of content on China. Make sure to leave a comment if there's anything, first of all, anything that I didn't understand. Second, if there's anything that you want me to watch, and I'll see you in the next one.